What's up, traders? We are live on Futures Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us the thumbs up so we can get more likes on the show and get people in here today. And if you're watching this on Periscope, on Twitter, give us a retweet because, boy, do I have a great guest for you guys today. The 2019 Investing Champ here in the U.S., Leif Soreide. I am so excited to talk with him today because I know that many of us out there, we're futures traders, we're traders, and we're also investors, and they are different. We talk about this a lot on this show, on social media. They are different. And he was the U.S. champ in a very tough year. If you guys remember, 2019 was not an easy year for trading. So I'm really excited to talk with Leif today about how he went about trading that year. We're going to talk about his execution. He's really known as the high tight flags king. So we're going to talk to him about that, what stocks he's in right now, and thoughts on the current trading environment. Remember, Futures Radio Show is sponsored by CME Group and Micro Treasury Futures. They are now live. Be sure to pull up these new symbols so you know what the yields are trading: 2YY, 5YY, 10Y, and 30Y. And to learn more about all the micro products, go to activetrader.cmegroup.com. Futures Radio Show is also sponsored by Trading Technologies, TradeStation, and FTSE Russell. The Russell 2000 is a key benchmark for small cap U.S. stocks. Be sure to check out the E-Mini Russell 2000 futures symbol RTY and Micro E-Mini Russell 2000 futures symbol M2K. To learn more about FTSE Russell and their products, please visit FTSERussell.com. Back in 15 seconds with Leif.
Get S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 by the slice. Just 1/10 of the pie. Trade the tastiest index futures, micro E-mini options with TradeStation. Get a piece of the pie now.
My man Leif is in the house. What's going on, my friend? How are you?
Hey, good to see you, Anthony. Thanks so much for having me on. I love your show. I know it's a lot of futures traders on here, but come to the dark side. Come swing trade with me, guys. Let's go.
Yeah, you know what? I had such an education from you and so many of the guests on the Trader Lion when they did that event. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I look forward to having pretty much all of those presenters on there on that presentation that weekend to come on the show. Yeah. And I wanted to start with you just because I think, I learned so much from your presentation, and I know we're going to talk about high tide flags and we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff, but I want to talk about that year 2019. You are the U.S. investment champ that year in a tough year. What was your mindset? What was your process? What did you do to win?
Yeah, I wanted to come in there and be a textbook trader, and I don't know what I wanted to do with it. I just I wanted to get out and start to get involved, and to start talking with other traders and get involved with the contest. And I was in the lead in the beginning, or first and second, switching around, of course. But that year was really tough, and that was a lot of trade war tweets and things like that. So where all the breakouts got sold, and, just trying to hang in there till the end of the year, and that mindset of just, staying positive and not talking negative about yourself and staying focused. I like your mindset stuff you do on your show, and the focus on health, and health is important. If your health isn't there, and, the mental game isn't there, but, eventually I was able to get it going at the end, and just, quickly flipping swing trades in and out at the end in, the last 2 months, and eked out the win. So it was fun. Yeah. It was a lot of fun too.
That's really cool. And we're definitely going to talk about some trading psychology, and we're going to talk about mindset. I love to talk about that, but I want to ask you a few questions about your strategy. Right now, everybody's talking about earnings. Do earnings even matter to you?
Well, earnings do matter. And that's in a really nervous market like we're seeing right now. Everybody's waiting for earnings. So you're not going to get a lot of moves until earnings. So the only moves we're really getting are earnings, the big breakout moves anyway. So, trying to get in some of those through a pivot is one thing I've been focused on, but we haven't been able to get too many of them going. But I have that Zim today, this shipper, been focused on that, held some through earnings, and seems to be working out. And focusing on that group itself is, focusing on the groups as they pull back right now is key, because I'll show later the IWO is kind of I would say the main indicator that would say, how difficult swing trading is, for smaller stuff. I mean, people don't come to me to trade Apple and Google and stuff like that necessarily, but that's where all the money's hiding, right? So everyone buys Apple and there's all these large caps. It's kind of an ETF market, just kind of floating up there when any strength in these smaller names or just kind of breakouts get sold. So I'm really focusing on like pullbacks right now. And, like I said, when the groups pull back, see what held up and try to get in on a pullback or, a lower pivot or something like that versus, 52-week highs right now. So, and there's a high tight flag out there. It may not be one anymore. I got to measure it, but it was ASAN, and they'll come out 5%, they'll dump it, and they'll come out 5% and they'll dump it. So I'll show that later at the end of the show when we do some charts. But it's been a difficult market. You got to be faster. That's the key. And that's part of my signal. I just use like a red, yellow, green signal. On red signal, I'm taking profits faster and moving stops up as quickly as I can. Maybe even taking smaller stops, and you're having smaller size till you get some traction. So we're waiting for those really easy environments and trying to eke out some gains in the meantime.
Yeah, you mentioned environment. If you could just summarize how you go about identifying an environment. Is it purely technical?
Yeah.
Is it fundamentals? What goes through your mind to summarize what environment
It's a lot of technicals, but it has to do with like how well I'm doing. If these breakouts are working, if they're getting out and sticking, which they're not. I mean, the big money for me is made in the big trends. And I originally was kind of a trend follower, but I kind of switched to swing trading. When you kind of hit a certain level, you don't want to roll your money down and do every retest until you don't want to hold your money forever in something that go down 50%. I'd rather be out in 5%, go to cash or something like for that COVID crash, something like that. So that's kind of what, my style. I was doing a little bit of both, but switching to swing trading solely was key for protecting my money, really. So
if you had to summarize what you would say your strategy is, because everybody, we are going to go to the charts today, and we're going to look at some patterns. He's going to talk to us about what stocks he's in. But if you had to summarize it as to what your strategy is, what would you say?
Well, I mean, I'm focusing on the higher relative strength stocks. First of all, if I can get high tight flags, if they're all setting up and working, I'm attacking those. And I'm just trying to flip in and out, compound those gains, and get bigger size into things that are working. And focus on risk management first and not having big drawdowns, really. I mean, that's the key. Big drawdowns, that's just mentally devastating. And when you suck, and you will, and I have periods of, you'll have a bad week or something, you want to be careful. And then, maybe you're off your game or something like that, and you want to be sized down. And if you're too stressed out, it's always your body's telling you something too, right? Like you should be sizing down. So a lot of stuff hasn't been working the last few days. So just a more careful environment for me, faster on the trigger to sell and slower to buy. It's got to set up perfect, So you take the feedback from the market and from your body. Are you watching your right? I mean, it's so much the body, but I mean, I'm just saying a lot of people don't, they'll try all this stuff and your body is telling you something too, when you get in over your skis. But I'm looking at all the indicators, especially the IWO is a small cap growth ETF. As that's rolling over under the 200-day right now, I'm just, let it come back. I mean, it's, this is kind of a dangerous spot for swing trading. So we're very careful, very focused on like shippers right now and steel, things like that. So
you've also mentioned execution.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to how I execute as a futures trader. I've said to a lot of people that how I've made more money as a trader, coming from a trader who was just breaking even or losing a little bit, just paying the bills, we'll call it, to getting to the point where I actually was able to put some money away, was by seizing the moments of when to be aggressive. I say when to be big and when to be small, when not at all. Mm-hmm. You're doing something similar because you said that you're trying to basically, the ones that aren't working, you're either getting small quickly and then adding to the ones that are working.
Yeah.
Is that how it works? So not all of your positions are the same size. Talk to us about position sizing.
Well, it's all about scaling up when the things are working. And, we're really testing. Say you're coming from cash, I'm putting some smaller buys out there, seeing what works. And, I have a few going in shipping right now because I'm not sure if it was going to work. So I have, I do a partial on one, and then, I've got one going into earnings. I got to scale back on that one. So I have to invest in one the funds are asleep on because they didn't realize the shipping was doing so well right away. So, and this is part of the thing I do on my platform at Champion Team Trading. We have these elaborate topics. And it's a very team-focused environment where we put all the stuff on the platform. We know, for example, like, DAC owns part of Zim. So, these are all interesting things you have to know. And all the details are important too. It's not just, here's a buy point and, we'll see what we do with it. But the buy points are absolutely important, but you have to have some kind of sense of, what are the shipping rates? I mean, we do like to deep dive all this stuff, really think about it. And it's not all technicals. We do fundamental analysis and stuff like that. And the reason I created the platform is because I wanted to, kind of work on these ideas with different people. And, I did this after the championship. I was kind of like ready to do that. But we were doing it on Twitter and stuff. So I ended up having my developers make this platform, which I think it's the best way to do it. Swing trade. I think it's the best platform. Maybe I don't have the best trades that week and maybe somebody else does, but it's the way it's set up, and I hope other people will kind of use it at least. I mean, use the ideas of how it's set up. I think it's a great way to do it. So yeah, I mean, that's where I go with that. So, I mean, I'm only going to put up things that I think are going to work, and it's like, it really helps you put your game up. Of course, they don't all work, but you want to show really good buys all the time. And in a team environment, you're not going to tell your buddy, like, here, check this stupid trade out I got. That's a trade that makes no sense. You're going to be a little more aggressive about, finding a perfect buy point, have a good reason behind it, checking the groups, connecting all the dots. Okay. It's not just the lines on the screen and only technicals. Like, you have to, what is the process at the moment? We're looking for groups that are pulling back. We're looking for the stocks that held up in the groups pulling back. And as the money starts to come back into those groups, we want to start buying those ones that are breaking out. And then we want to start buying the other ones that they forgot to buy, and then start, try to concentrate, focus, flip out of them when we can, move stops to even take the risk out. So yeah, just, it's hard to tell the whole story, but that's kind of the picture, right? I mean, that's sort of how it's done, how we do it anyway. So
yeah, I mean, one thing I've learned as a futures trader and learning from a lot of the stock traders like yourself is that when you have a team environment,
yeah,
there's so many stocks. Okay. Let's roll it back for a second. Like in futures, I trade a handful of futures markets. So I don't need to have this big team looking at all these different markets. But when we get into stocks, this is why I follow guys like you and a lot of other people on Twitter, because I'm not really trading them the way that you guys are. In a sense, a lot of my stock portfolio is buy, and I try to have a balanced, we'll say, in terms of stocks. I take X amount of money for the looks I think are the best, and I'm trying to be a longer term hold. But I go off of a lot of what you guys have showed me and finding these names. I mean, because there's so many names out there. You look at it and go, well, how much of X can I put into X? So that kind of brings me to my next question, actually. And we're going to be taking your questions, everybody, at the end as well. But this question is that Bowler Raul is putting out there right now is, how many positions can you have on at one time? How do you know how much to allocate to each one? Because even for me, I've been doing trading my whole life. Every time I get into stocks, I'm like, man, do I have to sell something to buy this one I like here? That's difficult to figure that out.
Well, everyone's risk tolerance is different. I mean, here's the thing. If I tell you it should be 25%, your account may be huge and you might choke, right? Because that's like mentally you can't handle it. I mean, not you specifically, someone, right? This is for example. So there's really no exact formula for a trader. It has to be what works for you, where you don't choke. That's kind of key, right? So if I'm, full margin and I'm not doing well, I'm going to trade crazy. If that's what I'm doing, I'm going to make mistakes. So you want to be doing good trading in size that you can handle. I mean, that's almost the key versus, trade 10% positions, 25% positions. But the key is also, getting in slowly. I mean, that's the thing. If you're coming in from cash, you might have to have more positions to see what's working. I mean, you got to start testing the waters and stuff. So I mean, those are my main keys to position sizing in a nutshell. I mean, but there's a lot more to it, and we go over this all the time. There's a lot of different ideas you can use. But scaling in is appropriate. So.
How many positions would you say is the most that you see yourself having on at one time?
I wouldn't want to have more than 15, really. I mean, that's the problem with that is if I'm flipping them really quickly, keeping partials and everything's working, I might have a couple, stuffed in my back pocket that I forgot about that are like, 3 or 4 positions, and maybe I can get up to 20 or something like that, So, but something I started small and they're trending. Like I've got something on my screen we'll share. Just trends from 15 to 70. You're not going to sell it. You just kind of hold it, but you're busy trading other stuff. So
yeah.
I mean, the more, not the merrier, really. You want to concentrate. You want to, flip in and out of those. Sell into strength all the time too. I mean, if you can. So, and don't be so sad if it keeps going up without you. We're focused on getting another setup, kind of similar setup, something else. So,
how much
swinging in and out of it?
Yeah. How much cash do you typically keep of your portfolio always on the sideline for an opportunity? Because we never know when that opportunity is going to come. Or are you many times just all in these different names?
Right. Well, if the environment is good and I can get in quickly, like in 2019 when I won at the end, I had to get all the way in very quickly because everything worked for me. Sometimes you just have to hit 3 in a row, and then number 4 is good. Now you're in the money and you're clicking, and then you can really get all your money in. And you move those stops up, and you say, okay, I had an account that was at this level. It's going to stay there now because my risk has moved up to that level. Now we're letting the money go. And I mean, then you want to really just kind of let the stuff go. And I don't necessarily want to close all the positions if things are trending well. Like 2020 was an awesome year. And, I even had 5 official positions that were maybe over 100% winners on the platform. And, that was an awesome year to just let those go 100%. So there's, not the full position. I would take some profits along the way, of course, to make sure it's, move the risk up. But that's how you can get into something else a lot bigger. Now your account grew, right? Because you have that 100% winner on one, and you can afford to take some more risk, and then you have more size, and then you're growing your account and growing your business because it's a business, right?
Yeah.
So
what would you say is the most you would be in a single position? Let's just say the stars were aligned.
Yeah.
And you loved it. You were like, this thing is just chomping at the bit for me to be in as much as I can. How much of a percentage basis of your capital would you be in?
I mean, I probably wouldn't go more than 25%, but that's huge. Talking about like your net worth or something, probably not more. That would be on the top end, but it would have to be high conviction and all that. But I don't have a lot of conviction. You just add up all the stuff that makes sense. And sometimes it just won't work out. So you really don't want to go all in, necessarily. You want it to prove itself to you, and you can add on later, things like that. So, and you want to be careful and follow all your rules. Don't end up in something that blows up either. I mean, if you have 25% of your money in something, there's one called the SESN, which would just blew up like a small biotech. Like that's something I wouldn't want that kind of money in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to be. It also matters what the stock is. Maybe if it was, Amazon or something like that, that I'm going to go a lot bigger in that versus, risky speculative biotech stock with no earnings. And I have no idea what they do. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. So it could be as simple as a bigger name like an Amazon or an Apple or a name that everybody knows. If it's got that look that you want, you feel a little bit safer because you know that you're not going to wake up and, and have a blow up. I mean, of course, that could still happen, but
still,
the likelihood is less.
Yeah. And then the shorting stuff is, of course, super dangerous when you short individual stocks. You theoretically could blow up. It could go to $1 million and off the open, but not likely. But this can happen. So
yeah. Do you short any stocks?
I do, but not. I don't really do that regularly. I shorted steel recently. I might show that in ETF, and that's what I'll put on the platform. The ETF's a little safer. I'll show that I did that, and then I got some profits, flipped long, and then it's kind of a messy market, and it's kind of a good illustration of that point. If I kind of show those trades, rather, so
Yeah, I mean, as an S&P trader, I could tell you, it's hard for me to ever be short
Yeah.
these days. I've almost stayed completely away from it. I mean, the trend is telling me to stay away from it anyway. But
Yeah.
even when I take some intraday ones, I'm always like, I feel it through my whole
Yeah,
body.
I traded some E-Mini futures back in the day, and I finally got to the level of profitability in that. And that was the most stressful thing I tried to trade. I don't know how you guys do it. So I much rather prefer the swing trading, take a break when it's not working, not trying to talk you out of futures trading. But for me personally, I was like all day, it's like being on crack or something. That's just like, oh, look at this, look at that. It's just all day ready to go. So that was very intense, and I respect everybody that does it. Of course, it's a very difficult situation there. Yeah,
it is so difficult, but the one thing that I think that when we go through that, and at least in my experience, like, because I've been trading the E-Mini S&P since it even became a product, so I have quite a bit of experience with it. And the one thing that I have learned is that I just got to slow things down. I mean, just when a market's busy, my number one job is I better be calm. When you're trading the S&P, it's one of those things where I just have to lower my blood pressure because it's moving the way it is, and because it's a leveraged product, it could easily start to overwhelm you when you start doing too much. And for a while that worked for me, but these days, I've slowed things down so much and put into my strategy the elements to help me slow things down. And I want to stay on earnings just for a minute because I think this is a big topic of conversation at the moment, and because everyone's talking about how great earnings are. And I want to know, do you go into these earnings with positions? Are you executing them after? I know we're going to go to the charts here in just a little bit, but I just was curious what your mindset is.
Well, I went into earnings with Zim this morning, ZIM, which is a shipper. I think they did pretty well, but I was telling my morning note that I'm sure they'll probably try to sell any kind of pop on that. It's got huge volume, so I'm probably going to keep it for now. But I sold it down, at over a risk multiple, most of it into earnings. So then I have to, I'm looking at buying other names because they're all going to maybe go on Zim's earnings. You have the other shippers and such. So, but I will buy on earnings maybe through a pivot, and I'll sometimes set those up. But you have to set up a lot of them to get one of them right, because they'll either gap down and you don't do anything, or they'll gap up too high, and then what are you going to do? You can't chase it. I don't chase gaps, and some people do that. But if it's within like 1% of the buy point on a good pivot, then a lot of them are these good pivots are made because of earnings. It'll slow the stock down, and everybody will get a chance to sell and get out. And then that's when the stock is ready to make the next move. So you have to be quick to get in there. But if it's not the right buy point, I won't do it.
So today is FOMC minutes day, and for a lot of us traders, we'll look at these moves, and I wouldn't say it's similar to like what an earnings are, but I want to do this comparison because on an FOMC day, I always look at the move and say, look, at the first day is always the overreaction. The second day is the reaction to day one. Day three is what really tells me about what happens with this market that I'm watching. So I tend to take FOMC days with a grain of salt. The initial action, I typically look at it as an opportunity to get in. Now I'm future trader, so I'm really not carrying stuff into it. And I'm like, if I get something that's just blown way out, and I look at it and say, maybe this makes no sense to me as to why we're down or up this much, I would use that as a way to get in. Is that similar with earnings? Do you have a different mindset when you see some of the price action?
I think earnings with stocks might be a little different. Usually the first reaction might be more of the right reaction than with futures.
Okay.
That's just my gut, but I've seen everything. You get those big gap ups and they sell it straight down lately. So it depends on kind of where it opens, and you got to give it a few seconds to let it, see the buyers show up, and that comes with experience. And it's important to let that experience happen over time. Like, most people are working, and swing trading is great for people that are working, because you can, check on your 2 or 3 ideas throughout the day, see how it worked, and eventually get really good at it, versus kind of I think futures is tough because you got to be right there in the action. And you can check later, but I think swing trading is a little bit longer term time frame. A lot of people work, and you can check in, and they, over time go kind of full time in that once you get really good at it, rather. So.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I think this is why it's so important for, I think, a lot of the viewers today to understand that really futures and stocks, they're different. I mean, my mentality may be similar in yours, and I think we'll talk about that at some point today. I think mindset definitely carries over. I think even strategies, in a sense, can definitely carry over.
And money management,
Yeah,
absolutely.
a lot of things are very similar. There's no doubt. But the personalities of these markets, and when you have futures, which is a very high leverage product, and then you're getting even more leverage from brokers, so you're just trading, basically a lot of leverage. I minimize that at this point in my career as to how much I use of it, as I feel like I just have a stronger hand in it. But it is very different, and you have to approach these types of things differently, even though with similar mindset and strategies. And that's why I learned a lot from the stock guys like yourself, because it really does help me create that balance from being a futures trader who's, I'm Mr. 80. I want to click. Let's go, man. Come on, baby.
Yeah.
Versus someone like you. When I watch these things, it's created patience for me in my investments, which is very beneficial for us as traders, as future traders. We take our money out of there and then we go to do what you do. We're going to take a break in a minute, everybody, and we're going to go to the charts. And when we come back, we're going to go to the charts and see if you'll share with some of the positions that you're in, maybe how you got into them, some things that you're looking at. We're going to talk about current trading environment. I see a lot of people putting in comments now, so drop your questions in because we're going to go to the charts. And I'm also going to ask you, what's the best piece of advice you have for the investors out there that want to be a champion investor like yourself? So everybody hang tight. We're going to be back in 45 seconds.
Replace your exchange with TradeStation Crypto. Dealing with multiple exchanges is complicated and it takes time, except with TradeStation Crypto. Because we are not an exchange, we are a broker. You have access to multiple pools of liquidity, all in one platform, in one account, one way. Trade crypto your way, plus earn interest on your eligible cryptocurrencies. Get started in one click.
Trade the global markets with Trading Technologies. TT is the world's fastest commercially available futures trading platform, now with integrated tools for advanced options trading, cryptocurrencies, and trade surveillance. Learn more at tradingtechnologies.com. Welcome back, everybody. So, Leif, you heard that commercial, and something we haven't talked about, I wasn't sure we were even going to talk about this, is crypto. Do you even look at crypto at all?
I like to look at crypto a little bit to see kind of how hot the money is at the time, right? I mean, that's kind of a clue, right? Like, if everybody's throwing their money at crypto, that's going to tell me something. So, and a lot of people a lot of my friends are talking about NFTs and, showing me their list of people that text them about how they made all this money on NFTs and things like that. So I think it's, a lot of speculative money is kind of tells me something, maybe a clue. I don't know.
No, I like that. It's one of those things. I think as traders or investors, we have to keep an eye on it now. It is, people talk about a global market. Well, when you look at markets in general, all across the spectrum, it's important, I think, to have your pulse on what's happening. And we talked a little bit about environment, and I think it's extremely important. And I own NFTs, so I don't know what that tells you. But
let's make this an NFT. Take a picture of it, and we'll put it on there. Each one of your interviews will be a limited edition. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. That's brilliant. I wonder what we could get for that.
Hey, I'm an entrepreneur, man. This is where I started. So,
all right, everybody. Well, we have the charts up, and I know this is what a lot of people have been waiting for. So basically, what I want to do is I just want to turn it over to you, Leif, and say, look, show us some of the things that you're looking at on your charts. Give us some insight of what you're seeing in the markets, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, you can see my screen here. Let me try to get this. Try to get a cursor up here. Give me 1 second. You got this track price on. Okay. So I look at the IWO for swing trading mostly. I mean, I don't care what the S&P 500 does. I mean, these are all clues. I look at the breadth of that. Like there's the percentage of stocks over the 200-day, things like that within the NASDAQ, and those are making new lows and the advanced declines and all that. So I look at kind of like what's under the surface, and this kind of tells me, and the IWO is the small cap growth, and a lot of people use IWM, and that's kind of an old habit I had with IWO plus IWN, like Nancy, which is a small cap value, and we don't really swing trade small cap values. So once I pulled that out of the equation, I kind of have a better idea of what my swing trading is going to look like. Where as last year, it was absolutely fantastic, riding into the top here, and then February 12th, I go to, I think it was 12th or 11th, somewhere in this area. I went to this red signal I have from being, well invested, but using tighter, not red risk management, but tighter risk management. Switching to a faster, smaller invested signal. And basically the whole year, this has been dragging. So the only way to really get any good gains this year was to time the turn ups in kind of in this, in this ETF rather, and the underlying groups and such, and then selling some into strength as it continuously rolls over throughout the year and just gets, laggier and laggier here. So right now at the end here, we're kind of in a dangerous, under the 200-day, still within the base overall, but, the 200-day does mean something if they can't save it quickly. It's in a dangerous spot. And we're all trained to buy the dips, but at some point you don't buy the dips. I mean, someone doesn't buy the dips, you know what I mean? So, I traded through the 2009 and all that too. So, I at this point, this is where I'm rather careful and targeting only certain groups that are working rather. So. Got it.
We're starting to see some questions come in, and I don't know if this is pertaining exactly to what you just talked about or not. Max SL percent, Leif looks for, does it have to be below a support area or it's always percent?
Yeah. So if I can't get a good kind of small stop, like a 5% stop is what I prefer. More than that, I will do more than that, but not much. And I'd rather go for 3%. And I've done some lately that are, less than 3%. And we're just, I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to try this again if this doesn't break out here. Maybe 1% stop. I'll do stuff like that too. And then I'll give you an opportunity to try it a few times if you keep the same size rather. So, there's a lot of ways to do it rather. So that's just something,
Yeah, I know. That's why I put that in there, because it's like, for me on the stock side, I will tell you this let me go back. On the future side, it's always a price, and I execute according to that price.
Okay.
With my investments in stocks, I've learned that I end up doing some sort of percentages throughout my portfolio. And thank you for answering that. Like you said, I think whatever it is, I always say, then just stick with it. You don't want to be changing all the time. Personally, for me, I always feel more comfortable knowing that price gets me in, price gets me out. But sometimes for certain things, I look at it and go, I don't have a great price, and I do use percentage. So it's just interesting hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, and you want to be below maybe the previous day's bar. You want to be below a pivot if you can. So the tighter the pivot, the better, really. That's what it's all about. And I already have up the marine shippers here. So this is, this one's a little wider. This kind of stops. So I've just been watching this one, and actually bought some other ones where I can get under 5% stops. So that's key. And that's one thing I'm looking at is something like GNK is I'm liking the pullbacks right now, as this got some power to the upside, but they spiked it. And, perhaps a pullback on this one is something I'm considering, but I'm starting to see some kind of negative volume there, but the group's doing well. So I'd consider it as, you have Zim. I had this going into earnings, sold a bunch of it right into earnings at around these highs. And, like I said, I didn't even know they sold it down, but I said they might sell it a little bit down, but, no surprise in this market, that's what's getting sold, is that strength. So you got to be fast.
What is your strategy for putting in trailing stops for something like this, or trailing out of it? Are you manually clicking out as maybe something like this is starting to come back down and you're going, you know what, I just need to hit the bid? Or are you have some sort of trailing stop that you...
I'll just move the stop to even and just not sweat it at this point on something like this, because I've already taken some profits. So, whatever happens here is fine. So it looks good to me. The earnings were, you got the 999s on there. I call that the Herman Cain number. That tax plan. He's got these 999s are really good to see, right? So, that's the thing you want to see on the chart as this kind of pops up and it has a good earnings reaction, and some people are excited to take profits quickly, and then, hopefully it'll stabilize and continue to break out of the base here.
Got it. What are What is one of? I think maybe I want to see one of what you would consider one of your favorite looks. Just a pattern, doesn't have to be something that you're in right now. Maybe a previous one, something where you looked at it and you were like, "This is one similar to the question I asked you before, where I said, hey, you know what? This could be 100% in, and 100% out, whatever percentage that would be. But yeah, a full position."
Well, I love Minervine's VCP. That's a tight area type of idea, and I just like tight areas. It doesn't have to be that. I like undercuts, and a lot of people trade undercut and rip. I like to see that in the base, and like even Zim has a little bit of this here, right? This kind of a base kind of. I wouldn't say this is the undercut, but it pretty much cut everybody out. It ran all the stops. I like to see that with a quick reset. I'll show some other patterns that. So I'm really combining everything I can to get a good tight area. I want to see everyone shaken out, especially in this environment. I want to see that shakeout, not just the tightening necessarily. I want to see everybody clear. I want to clear the deck and have all those people have to rush back in as the earnings kind of surprised everybody. Now all those people that are out have to get back in and chase it up. And that's what we're looking for.
So I'm just looking at it from what I see on here. So basically we trended down off the high and then it takes out, let's just say, that downtrend, and you see that little bit of a V type spike on the bottom. And then what would be the entry area?
I got a little line there. So I was early on this one. Maybe I bought it on the 11th or something like that. I can't remember which day, or the 10th. So maybe one of my trading errors on this was, and I criticized myself as being early because it didn't really have any check back. Once it got up there, it was just flat. I prefer a little bit of check back, just let everybody get out of the position if they were meaning to do so. From they finally got their money sort of back. And I use a lot of volume profile from the E-Mini days. I still have that on my chart, so I can kind of see, how much supply might be up there. If it looks bigger than the other one, just kind of visually, really won't measure it, but I just want to see that hump on the side of the screen. So looking over that and seeing this get through that is kind of nice. So maybe build out a handle here as it touches the highs and on to the next base, hopefully.
So a question I have for you on this particular one would be, because you have a definitive bottom, we'll call it, right? We have that V spike. Would that be something that you would position based off of leaning on that low, or would this be a percentage stop?
Yeah, I mean, my percentage stop, I could get it below the 50-day. So I'm using the moving averages too. So I want to see a pivot. This is right on the 50-day. It's rather flat. So, I think this is okay to get a stop below that, which is where it was. Maybe, I don't remember exactly. I think it was 40.99, somewhere in that area. So I gave myself a little bit of room. As soon as it popped up there, I was selling up over maybe almost 6%, because it's such a sketchy market. And then I already moved half the stop to even, and I'll be moving the whole stop to even probably after I get off this call.
How do you determine targets?
It's more about visualization, how it looks to me. So if this sets up great, breaks out, on volume, I'm looking for maybe the next base and selling into strength where I might think the next base is starting. Okay. And usually I'm going to be wrong and be early to sell it. No one gets the top right exactly. I mean, maybe it's happened to me a few times, but that's just luck, So, when you get these big moves, and like I was saying when we got on, I didn't realize this even sold off yet, but I was saying the strength in this name might get sold down a little bit, but that doesn't mean to take it off altogether. They'll probably sell some strength, and we'll see what happens with it.
I want to go to this question that Sintu Roy put in, because we're talking a lot about environment. We're talking about a lot about the current things that you're doing.
Yeah.
But Sintu Roy's question is, what is your strategy for getting out in this current market?
Well, getting in and out, I mean, my strategy now is a very fast signal where I'm taking at a risk multiple, I'm taking some profits and maybe moving the full stop to even, or even half or the full stop to even, depending on how I'm doing, and seeing if I can get some of these to trend and start to pay for new risk. And as I put new risk on that starts to work, I'll start to take profits there, and I'll just continually try to let those go in the money, and maybe sell them a little quicker based on how the market's acting right now. But usually I let them trend as far as I can. Like this Zim, even Zim here. I mean, I bought this at at this day right here at 21.56 and sold it mostly all up in here at 28 or so. I mean, that was, and look how far it went. So you do want to give it a chance if you can, especially a good IPO base mover like this. And, their numbers are really good. So
this is somewhat of a follow-up of what we're talking about, going back to Anish. He said average RR on your targets. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, that's as much as I can get out of it. I'm trying to move the stop to even and just let it go. And if I can get several risk multiples, 3 to 4, I'm taking, another scale, then another scale, and then finally I have a trailer that maybe I don't care so much about, and that's what might add. That's what might have more positions in the portfolio than I want then. But that's when you're doing really well. Okay, you know what I mean? So then you're leaving a few on, and the market's going in your favor. So.
Yeah, and a couple of things I want to comment on that you've discussed so far. So it sounds as though you're trying to get as quick as you can on these positions.
Yeah,
take some profit.
Well, no, not small. I don't want to lose my size. I want to move the risk out as fast as I can. You know what I'm saying? So I'll take a small scale. Mentally, in a tough environment, I love to take a small profit and move the stop to even. Then I feel like a winner mentally, right? This is part of the mental game. So if I have a position and I say, okay, this is a winner, now I'm on to another position. And if that's a winner, now I'm starting to get in the money, and it's starting to happen for me, right? And in a tough environment, that's easier said than done, but that's where you're going. So
it's interesting. Yeah, thank you for correcting me on that, because in my mind, what I've been doing when I've been trading gold lately is I've been getting as small as I can, as quick as I can, because it's been so choppy for me. And what you're saying is you're just taking off a small piece of it just to build that little bit of confidence. I think that's so important, because so many traders, they always look at it as black and white. Should I get out here? Should I not get out here?
Right.
Sell. I mean, in futures world, we go sell 1, sell 2, see how you feel. You can always get back in.
That's right. I mean,
people get so frozen on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the confidence of you put your research into a stock and you get it out like this one. I've already made money on it, so I'm willing to let this piece go. I mean, if it stops me even, it stops me even. But I do play for bigger moves. I don't want to play for. I'm not risking 5% to make 2. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm trying to let this last piece go for several risk multiples, and I will have stops, and I do take stops, and they have to be paid for. You know what I mean? So, and if I take too many, I have to size down, and that's all a personal thing. You got to look at your own P&L and say, okay, this is not going well. I just took like 4 stops or whatever. So and then you don't want a revenge trade. That's part of the whole mental thing. Where everybody wants to come back in bigger, you got to come back in smaller. I mean, that's the professional way to do it. I mean, if things get difficult and you come back in bigger, I mean, you're digging yourself a hole that you might not be able to get out of, and then you're out of business. So you don't want to be out of business.
Yeah. How much time are you putting in away from the screens to work on the mindset?
I mean, you do have to work on it. You got to assess yourself. I like to assess myself, see what level of stress I have. And my wife says throughout my life, I just seek high levels of stress. But I'm a very relaxed person, and you wouldn't know it. So I'll find the most difficult thing I can possibly do and put myself in that situation, but not, crazy trading stuff like that. But, doing all the stuff I'm doing now, and, other businesses and things, you don't want to give yourself too much stress that it's affecting your trading, though. And some people thrive on stress and some people don't. So these are all, you have to analyze yourself and get yourself right. I mean, are you too tense? Do you need a massage? You have to actually ask these questions of yourself and be honest. And you can't really improve as a trader or as a person in life in general if you can't say, this is a problem. My partner here is not a good partner for me or something. You can't be honest with yourself and cut that loss or whatever. You got to get yourself in a good place. Your life has to be really good too to be a great trader, I think. I mean, it's just, if you're a mess outside of trading, you're gonna come in and do strange things probably. So you got to have support. People have to believe in you. I mean, you got to surround yourself with positive people. Don't talk negative about yourself. This is more your area than mine, but this is what I was excited to come on and talk about this stuff with you, because I know you've done a lot of work based on from your health experiences and things like that. So
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, when people say that they want to find balance in this
Yeah.
business, people, at least in my experience, tend to end up doing the same things that create more stress versus creating balance between,
Yeah.
just like you said, you go into other things to, in those moments, relax yourself and your mind and see how you react in those certain types of situations. I believe that what I like to do really that helps me, one of the questions is tips on how to manage stress that FFTY put in there. And
Yeah.
to me, this comes into creating balances. Work hard, but play easy. And I talked about how I'm a clicker. I love to click and do things. I'm an intense guy. So I would go and then lift weights hard and then
Yeah.
run hard and do things. And my body was never really relaxing. And I
Right.
started to do other things like yoga or Pilates or just breathing,
Right.
just
Yeah.
things to counter it and to really get my head, and something that you said, self-assessment, get my head around where I'm really at.
Right.
That is it's easier said than done because nobody ever really wants to question where we really are, right? It's
Yeah.
such a hard thing. You just kind of just want to march through and just hope that either these health issues won't bother me or this won't
You're
happen
right.
to me. Nobody wants to take things on before they get worse, or they don't, or at least see where they really are. I'm guilty of that myself. I mean, I go through phases where I just put my blinders up and I'm just doing whatever. And then I'm like, hey, man, you're losing sight of here. You're eating like crap. You're not doing this.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Snap out of it.
Yeah.
And
Self-reflection is really important. That's the key. And it's hard to do that because, you don't want to, a lot of people don't want to admit their faults, and admitting your faults is about getting to the next level. And whether it's making something easier for yourself. I mean, what are you doing to make your trading easier, make your trading better, make your health better, to make your life better? Like I have a barber come to the house. It saves me 2 hours a day now, or not a day. I mean, I don't do it every day, but when I go, right? I mean,
he thinks he's me now, everybody.
Save some time. I mean, figure something out, like make your life easier and work on it. I mean, that's important. And then your trading and everything will benefit. And, your trading is never going to be awesome all the time. There's going to be times where it's difficult. Like I'd say right now is a more difficult time, obviously, based on what I was showing, right? So, I mean, you just take a look at that chart and know that maybe the mental game is very important, kind of fighting this kind of rotational market where the money doesn't know where it wants to go. Okay, then you're only guessing on different, crazy, try this group, we'll try that group. And you're not going to be right every time, and you're going to get bounced out, and, the stress levels are going to be high. So easy environments are more of a party. And that's where people get sloppy. Like in 2020, like everybody made money in 2020. Well, I wouldn't say everybody, but I'd say that was an easier year for swing trading. But this is more of a reality check this year as to dialing in the risk management and all that. But when we get back to a period like that, if you do it correctly and make it through this time, you're definitely going to be in that position to capitalize on those easy swings and growing your account and stuff like that. So
one of the best piece of advice that I received from a trader on the floor was, Anthony, when you're making money, you just keep doing what you're doing and you keep saving. When you're not making money, go out and enjoy yourself and spend money.
yeah.
And psychologically, that was very difficult for me because when I was making money, of course, you're making more money. You feel like you want to spend more. I mean, that's just because you feel more comfortable. You're like, I just made this today. I'll do that. We've all been there.
Yeah.
And
have McDonald's on a bad day, like, maybe don't do that.
Exactly. Because
Right.
you're not, because during those times, you're not creating that balance. If you work your butt off and you make money, and then all of a sudden you go through a down period, instead of sitting there forcing it and overwhelming yourself with struggle around you, and all of a sudden tightening everything up, I don't think you recover as quickly. When you just say, hey, I'm just going to go out and maybe I'm going to go spend $500, it probably isn't going to save you, depending on how big you trade. It could save you thousands, tens of thousands in some instances. So I learned that, just go to the mall, walk around, look to see that there's life outside of us staring at these screens, because when you're doing good, you want to stay there and take advantage of it. You talked a lot about this today. You're like, when things are going well in certain positions, I just keep staying on them. And when they're not, you've got to learn that release. And I've got some good questions here. I think we'll go back to the charts a little bit here. It says, this is from FX Lemon. Do you enter the moment price crosses the pivot, or will you wait to see volume confirmation, even if it means getting in at a higher price? Love that question.
Well, in this environment, I don't want to fall for a standard breakout just because it is coming from a low volume area. And don't get me wrong, they can definitely work. The volume can come in later. But what I've been saying is I want to see some volume to the buy point, to the pivot. I want to see, because the institution's not going to sit there buying it all at the penny to the penny of the buy point. You know what I mean? So I want some idea that there's some real money behind it. I want to start to see the volume come in. I look at relative volume, and I have a thing on YouTube about that. How I use FinViz actually, which is something I can get off the open. I can see where the volume is in my watch list, and that's kind of important. So as the real volume comes pushing it to and through the buy point, I'm more likely to take it. But I will take one just at a perfect buy point, especially in a great environment. I mean, and I'm not even. And then I'll change my method. I don't need the shakeout as much. I could go with a standard tight areas, more VCP or something, and those will be working great. So yeah, I mean it will change, and you can do both. I mean that's the thing, and that comes with experience. And you got to get your butt kicked a lot too. It's not like I just showed up and didn't try everything. Every system under the. I'm okay, E-Mini trader and everything else. I mean, you have to finally get there. And I just say go start with swing trading with me and forget all that stuff.
A couple of things. So, Warren, do you ever build into a swing position over time?
Yeah.
Or do you buy all at once?
I will build a position, but I'd rather just buy it all at once, buy it correctly, and let it go. But then if it sets a new base, a new buy point, like this one on the screen, GOGL, with the group taken off. Say I bought this, much lower. I'm probably taking some profits in here, and just sometimes they'll just add them back. So to build out the position back where it was, because I mean, when you get a good trend, I'm selling a lot into that, and sometimes I'll just put it back on. So
we're getting some questions about some names. If you're game, I'll throw out a couple names that people are asking about.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So Galt going. Don't you love these names? I crack up all these. I don't know some of them. I'm sorry if they're your real names, and I maybe, but I look at a lot of these on here on YouTube. Yeah. Some of these just crack me up. Thoughts on DOX?
Well, DOX, I think this is an earnings move. So everybody's waiting for earnings, and this is the earnings gap that worked. Okay, so then you want to buy earnings gaps, and there's a lot that don't work, so I don't buy them. But here's the thing. I mean, you see this nice cup in the volume, and then almost a little handle there. That thing looks pretty nice, and it's out there. But the IPO down here, and we're looking. I mean, maybe we give it a high tight flag designation if it gets up there high enough. But I mean, this is not a tight viable area, really. I mean, unless you want to go in the 60-minute, I don't really have anything for you there. So, what's the other one? Let's go before we run out of time.
DLO.
DLO, yeah. This one, I got an alert on this one today. This came through earnings, and this. They're selling that strength. I mean, I think this was up 8% when I looked at it here on my alert, and got out more than 10%. But that kind of strength gets sold. It's not a very tight area, but almost buying over yesterday's high there would have made some sense because it's on earnings. You could probably get a decent stop there. So that might have been a little pullback buy. But this is very aggressive stuff in an IPO base. So we can, and I cut all the rules in half for IPOs. Make it even faster because you can make some big money on these things. But the time is rule of thumb for me is half. Just to let you know, if I wait so many days, I say I wait half that time for require half that for an IPO base like this.
Are you ever looking at the major indices like SPY or QQQ for trades, or are you just trading individual names?
Mostly individual names. I mean, those. They don't typically move 5% in a week, stuff like that. So I want to trade something faster. I will, take a look at them. Sometimes they set up like stocks and you can trade them, but I prefer to go with the higher RS stocks. Like you see, this is a 93 RS stock. All these ones on my list, I look at DAC, this is a 99 RS. So that kind of qualifies it already. It's definitely going to be in an uptrend, and, unless they're, they kind of wait the longer time frames on these sometimes, and you get some strange ones. But for the most part, a 99 RS is going to be a nice uptrend. So And sometimes it maybe 90 RS works better, depending on how the market works. You want to buy these kind of lower areas and, pullbacks and such. So
I'm going to go to a couple more questions, but I just wanted to
Sure.
say this because Omar put this out there. He said, I just want to say that I'm a member of Leif's group, and as a novice trader, he's helped me to keep my sanity over the last 6 months of chop.
I appreciate that, Omar. It's good to see you.
And, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I mean, that's great to see people that are learning from you. And do you look at yourself as a mentor? Did you have mentors?
Oh, well, sure. I mean, I sub some different services, and the O'Neill stuff. Going back to that is really everything is based off of that material, and a lot of people put their lingo to it and spin on it, and I'm just kind of wanting to trade with people, and I'm learning from my members. I mean, they'll put this stuff up there. Say we're looking at the auto industry. We have a member that I think has a car dealership or something. I mean, talk about some good information you can put in the topic, right? So, and I don't think of myself as like a guru. I don't lecture people and say you have to do it my way. I'm wrong a lot, but when we get it going, I mean, it can go well because the style is strong, and you can really make some money.
Let me ask you this, because O'Neill Disciples, somebody put out there, and you've just talked about that.
Yeah.
If it's a proven method, which we've seen through a lot of these traders out there, what do you think really separates the traders that are successful doing this versus not? Because if it's a proven methodology, right? Why can't everybody make money with it?
You have to follow the rules. I mean, that's the thing. People can't follow the rules. It's like, being a great bodybuilder or something. Everybody knows what they do. They could tell you exactly how they do it, but good luck with that. And you're not going to do it because you're not going to spend the time. I mean, you have to be willing to do it for years and maintain the discipline and find all the little tricks. I mean, just reading the books it's really not enough. I mean, you're going to have to practice it, and you're going to have to get your butt kicked. They don't tell you how you're going to feel when you go on a run and you feel like a total idiot, when it's like lost. What chapter is that? Like, because I'm not selling anything to say like, okay, we're guaranteed to win or something like that, and I don't make silly claims about returns and things. I just want to trade and put the trades out there, and that's it. I mean, just trying to have a little reality, because it's not easy all the time to trade, especially when the tide's going against you and the underlying, the breadth of these markets is kind of a mess. So
screen time, everybody. You got to put time in to build experience. I mean, here's a guy who takes an existing methodology and becomes a champion. It's really pretty impressive, right? I mean, when you think about it, it's like when I hear things like this, and that's why I asked you that question. It's that you did what other people wouldn't do. I mean, you put the extra time in. You figured out what you needed in your world to take something like the O'Neill methodology and make money with it for yourself.
Just a quick point too. Like at the end of the year in 2019, everybody was pretty much blown out, and I think a lot of traders in the contest this year are having some trouble. But you just have to have the confidence that it will work at some point. Never give up at all. I mean, that's the thing. Just don't give up your account. That's the main thing. You can't get yourself into too big of a hole. If that's what you're doing, you have to stop. And when things finally set up again, you're going to be ready to take advantage. I mean, that's key. So,
yeah. This question, I believe you already answered, is do you ever fade earnings gaps?
No, I don't do that.
So this will be the last one we take, because I think this will kind of fit into the futures traders out there. And I think it's pretty important right now in terms of what we will look at in the economy and the market. Steel and copper, or any infrastructure play for 5G.
Yeah, well, steel was a fun trade because I was short steel right in here, and it rolled over, and I covered a bunch of it down there, stopped even on the rest, and then I flipped long into STLD. Where's that? And I went into STLD right on this third bar there, and sold some into strength, and put this on breakout watch here and messed this one up because I thought this one wasn't the strongest one. So I was going into a couple other ones like MT and CLF. So you can definitely get whipped around swing trading, but the key is if this rolled over, I was protecting myself, and then missed the shot up on that, but it got into some other steal names, and sometimes it's a little bit of a battle too. I mean, it's not so easy, right? You can get stopped on something and just take off, and then you have to stomach that. That's kind of hard to stomach for people too, is watching it go by without you. As I think U.S. Steel, I've been watching this, is breaking out today, but I'm not exactly targeting these new highs right now, but I'm just alerted to that and just take a look. I mean, it's just something to look at. But that's going really well today. Is steel's been a group, and the shippers, and maybe some inflation trade, things like that. So you got to know where the money's going. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time, and you got to put the study in. So, and even in steel here, you have this nice undercut of this base, and then the reset. I mean, this would have been a great buy point right in there, and then now you have the high buy point as the add spot. So
that's somewhat similar to that other look you showed us before. Yeah,
just this tightening action. This is undercut. I really like the undercut in this environment, and tightening, reset, and coming out there. So, combining a couple ideas there, obviously, but looking through some of these tight areas, maybe you have a little VCP to this thing here. I was watching this one. Let's see. A lot of pullback buys are, they have these initial pops right now too in this difficult environment, and here's one I was looking at, and I'm just not exactly buying it a lot today, but I'm focusing on the shippers, and they're kind of working out. And you have some of these, like this illustrates a bunch of rules for me. This one is why I don't go under $5, right? I mean, this thing, you buy it here, and I think it opened at $1.70 or something. So this is why you don't put 25% of your money in a speculative biotech. This is a good example of how to risk manage. And I was putting some of these on as selling the strength, right? They're selling these the earnings moves and out of these bases right now. So this is why I'm targeting more pullback buys, and even buying these little breakouts. They're getting stopped and they turn around through earnings. Everybody's waiting for earnings. So right now, earnings are key. Like once you get through earnings, those might be the best names to get in if they break to the upside. So just something I've been seeing is, a lot of these are, maybe this is an overcrowded trade, this snap, right? Everybody tried pullbacks and breakouts, and maybe a little bit too overcrowded as traders get really fast taking their profits, and there's nobody up there to sell to, because the funds are buying lower, maybe off the moving averages, as we're kind of having this zombie market, but ETFs just kind of pushing everything up, stuff like that. So just a couple ideas to throw out there.
Final question on the charts today is, what's your favorite look that's brewing, that you see brewing, that hasn't quite set up for you to get in yet?
Oh, well, it was the shippers, and I don't know if I have the shippers. They're up here. So let me bring up this chart here, see if I can bring this transportation ship up here. Okay, so this is a group that shook out and then is resetting in here as you start to see some of the earnings come in that are great, like Zim and all that. Then you start to target the stocks in the group, right? So, I mean, this is my one for today. What's going to be on there tomorrow might be different. So for now, I'm looking at this, honestly, and really nothing else. I'm just, as everything kind of shook out in the last few days, I just wanted to reset. And people want to say, well, what are you going to do? So yeah, I could go point out a lot of stocks that might be viable, but I almost want to just take a couple days and just let things kind of shake out and not get too aggressive, as things are in dangerous positions still, so.
Well, thank you so much for sharing the charts with us today, Leif. And what I want to do is, the last question for today is, I said before the break, I said, what would be your best piece of advice for the investors, the traders out there that want to be a champion trader?
I don't know. You just have to commit to a style, and commit to a proven style, and just in your head, you could never quit at it. That's the number one thing. Like, you can't make any excuses. You just say, this is part of what I do now, and that's it. And if you don't love it, forget it. So you have to have some enjoyment in it, obviously. But that's the key, is to just never give up.
It's well said. At the top of my Twitter page, my most popular tweet that I ever put out was, I went through all these struggles, and why didn't you quit, right? And it was because I only saw myself as a trader, so I couldn't quit. And you just have to have that commitment, because this business is going to test you, It's going to challenge you in so many ways that you have no idea about yet.
Yeah.
And you've got to commit. Well, this was awesome. Where can people learn more about you and give us your site and your Twitter handle?
Well, my platform is championteamtrading.com. My Twitter is Leif Soreide. That's my name, at Leif Soreide. You can see it maybe on the screen there.
Yeah,
I probably put out a couple tweets here and there. I put this shipper stuff out a couple days ago, so maybe that would have been nice to see. I would have subbed me, right? So far so good. So some good ideas on there once in a while, and I get plenty wrong too. But it's more like checking out the process and seeing how swing trading works. You can see that all there too. So.
Leif, what can I say, my friend? Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me on.
To come on with us live. And all of you traders out there, thank you so much for giving us questions and joining us today. If you guys are enjoying this interview, give us the thumbs up and subscribe on YouTube, and also retweet because we are on Periscope. My next live guest will be coming up in just a few weeks, and it's going to be Brian Shannon from Alpha Trends. So we take a little time off.
Brian.
Yeah, Brian's going to be a great guest. He's going to be September 8th. We'll still have shows for all of you guys out there. In the meantime, all right, everybody, that's a wrap for today. Leif, you're the best, my friend. Thank you so much.
Anthony. Appreciate you.
Cheers, everybody.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Futures Radio Show. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Never miss an episode. Go to anthonycrudele.com and get on our email list for show notifications and for free content that is exclusively for subscribers. Also on anthonycrudele.com, you will find tons of videos and education on trading futures, options, and crypto. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Opinions expressed are solely my own and my guests, and they do not express the views or opinions of my sponsors. Futures Radio Show is produced by Crudele Productions.